The first thing I noticed on my very first ride was how planted this bike feels when the pavement ends. The fat tires and the suspension take the edge off rough ground in a way that made me instantly want to keep going and see what else it could handle. This is the ZDZA 1500 watt, 26-inch fat tire electric bike, and it sits in that category of e-bikes that are built more like a small utility vehicle than a lightweight cruiser. I see it making the most sense for someone like me who wants one bike to do a lot of different jobs. Commuting during the week, dirt paths or gravel on the weekend, maybe some sand at the park, and the occasional hill that would normally make you avoid a route. If you live in a walk-up apartment or you have to carry your bike upstairs every day, the weight is something you will need to think about. But if your priority is stability and traction over portability, this type of bike is exactly the point. Visually, what stood out to me right away was the matte black look on the carbon steel frame. It reads rugged in person, and it does not look delicate. The welds and the overall fit felt solid when I started handling it, and after some riding, I did not hear the kind of random creaks and rattles that can show up on heavier electric bikes. The tires are the other big visual cue. They are the classic fat tire size, 26 by 4 inches, and that changes the whole personality of the bike. The contact patch feels wide, and that translates to confidence when you are turning on loose surfaces or rolling through patches of broken pavement. It also means it takes up more space in storage, so in my case, I had to reorganize where it lives in the garage. Putting it together was less stressful than I expected. Most of it came already assembled, and I mainly had to attach the front wheel, the handlebars, and the pedals. I am not someone who enjoys mechanical projects, and I still found it very manageable with the included tools. I took my time, double-checked the bolts, and did a short, slow ride right after to make sure everything felt aligned. One personal choice I made was skipping the fenders. They were easy to install, but I wanted a cleaner look and I did not want extra weight hanging off the frame. If you ride in wet conditions, I can see why you would absolutely want them, but for my use they were optional. Once I actually started riding, the weight became a real part of the experience, but not in the way I feared. The bike is about 67 pounds, and you feel that when you are moving it around by hand or lifting it. On the road, the weight turns into stability. It tracks straight. It feels calm at speed, and when the surface gets choppy, it does not feel twitchy. The seat height adjustment gave me enough room to get comfortable quickly, and at 5 feet 11 inches I did not feel cramped. The saddle itself is on the firmer side. I could ride it for a decent stretch without pain, but if you like a plush seat for longer rides, I would personally swap it for something softer. The motor is what defines this bike. In real use, it is the difference between crawling up a hill and just riding up it like it is no big deal. On flat pavement, it has enough power to feel quick without feeling out of control, and I was able to reach a top speed around 28 miles per hour. What mattered more to me than the number was the way it got there. The throttle response felt strong and direct, and pedal assist felt predictable once I got used to the levels. I liked having 5 assist levels because I could keep it mellow in a neighborhood, and then bump it up when I hit an open stretch or a long climb. Battery life is always where expectations meet reality, and my experience matched what I usually see with bikes in this class. You can get around 40 miles if you are relying on electric power alone, and you can push closer to 72 miles if you are doing steady pedal assist and not asking the motor to do everything. For me, the best strategy was mixing the two. I would use pedal assist most of the time, then use throttle when I needed a quick burst to clear an intersection or crest a hill without losing momentum. I also really appreciated that the battery is removable. I could unlock it, slide it out, and charge it indoors without moving the whole bike. The battery indicator helped me avoid guessing, especially on rides where I went farther than planned. The tires deserve their own moment because they change how you ride. On gravel, the grip felt excellent, and the bike stayed composed over washboard texture where a normal tire would skip around. On sand, dropping the tire pressure made a bigger difference than I expected. When I lowered it down near 6 pounds per square inch, the bike floated more and stopped digging in as easily. On pavement, I brought the pressure back up closer to 19 pounds per square inch, and it felt smoother and faster. That adjustability is part of what makes a fat tire bike genuinely useful instead of just looking tough. Suspension also plays a big role here. With the dual suspension setup, the bike took the sting out of potholes and curb transitions, and it made dirt paths feel less fatiguing. The front suspension has adjustment and a lockout, which I actually used. When I was on smooth pavement and wanted a more efficient feel, locking it out helped reduce that bouncy sensation. When I turned off onto rougher trails, unlocking it brought back comfort and control. It is not a mountain bike replacement for technical trails, but for mixed terrain and real-life rough roads, it did what I wanted. The display ended up being more useful than I expected. It is a color screen and it stays readable even in bright daylight, so I could glance down and see speed, assist level, and battery status without squinting. That sounds small, but on an electric bike it makes you feel more in control of your range. I also liked how the controls felt on the bars. Changing assist levels and managing the ride did not require taking my attention off the road for long. In my testing, hills were the real proof point. I took it to a stretch near me that usually forces a downshift and a lot of effort on a regular bike. With this one, I could climb smoothly using throttle only, and with pedal assist it felt even more confident. That is the kind of power that changes how you plan routes. You stop avoiding certain roads, and you start choosing them because they are faster or more scenic. Braking is another area I pay close attention to, especially on a heavier e-bike that can move quickly. The dual disc brakes gave me consistent stopping power, and they felt controlled instead of grabby. I tested them on clean pavement and on slightly wet surfaces, and they stayed predictable. I still recommend giving yourself extra stopping distance compared to a lightweight bicycle, because speed and mass add up. But the brakes did their job and gave me confidence. For daily use, I did a few rides that mirrored a real commute. Side streets, a short main road section, a couple of rough patches, and some stop and go. The bike felt like it wanted to be used for practical trips, not just joy rides. The headlight is bright enough to be meaningful, and the horn is loud enough that I would actually use it to get attention. There is also room to add a front rack or basket, which I think fits the personality of this bike. One thing I would personally add is a proper tail light if you plan to ride often in low light. There is a rear reflector, but for regular evening riding, I want something powered and obvious. My main criticism comes back to weight and handling when you are not riding. If you have to lift it frequently, it will get old. Rolling it around is fine, and removing the battery helps a bit, but it is still a heavy machine. The seat comfort is another personal preference point. It is fine, but not luxurious. Those are both solvable depending on your situation, but they are worth knowing. After spending real time with it, I see the ZDZA 1500 watt fat tire electric bike as a strong fit for riders who want stability, traction, and power for mixed terrain, and who do not want to baby their bike. If you want something light and easy to carry, this is not that. If you want a confident ride that can handle broken pavement, gravel, sand, and hills without feeling stressed, this one makes a lot of sense. If you have any questions about how it rode for me, or you want to know how it might fit your commute or weekend routes, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more real-world reviews, and thank you for watching.